This is Hilton Milan. Thank you for tuning in to Divine Times. Looking for those divine times, they're everywhere. In your home, in your businesses, in your communities, and they're also right here and with my special guest, Brian Hardy. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
We've known each other casually over the years, and I've heard you speak publicly as a public speaker.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have a website, Brian Hardy, and it's BYRAN, hardy.ca.
Mm-hmm.
And also you have a podcast, which is Redefining Reality.
This is correct. Yeah, where we live at the intersection of business, wellness, and the birth of a global tribe. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk more about that and what the inception was, what the driver was for it? Maybe tell us your story.
Yeah, definitely. So podcasts changed my life back in 2011, 2012.
Yes.
When I was very ill. I was very unwell.
But you're young.
I
You're
know.
really young.
I know.
You're not even 30.
I know. Believe it. 8 years ago, I was 18 years old, and my appendix ruptured.
Yes.
And was misdiagnosed. So it got really infected, and it festered, and I had a lot of complications with my digestive system coming out of that life-saving surgery.
Yes.
And it took me about 3.5 years before I was back to what I would consider baseline or more functional in terms of energy, in terms of clearing brain fog, clearing skin issues, clearing constant bloating, constant gas, indigestion all the time. No energy, no sex drive, just really struggling to feel like myself. And finding podcasts and some inspirational YouTube people at that time.
So mainstream medicine was not. What was it doing for you? Or
not much, right? So I always say, mainstream medicine can keep us alive.
In the emergencies, it's great.
But it can't teach us how to be well.
And teach us how to be healthy and
have preventative health, right?
Yes.
Be proactive.
Yes.
And have optimal health, not just the absence of disease.
Right.
Which is what people think is healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had been having digestive issues for quite some time.
Before you were 18?
After that surgery, I was constipated my whole life. I just didn't realize it.
Yeah.
I was the farty, the little constipated Brian, who would eat, addicted to pizza, addicted to ice cream, addicted to junk foods.
So that wasn't your biology; it was your education and your diet and the culture, the
environment,
the fast food culture, the instant gratification.
Precisely, and it caught up with me at 18, so things got all blocked up and inflamed and infected, and my appendix, ruptured on me.
Were you scared?
At moments, it wasn't so much being scared. It was more so just being curious as to what's going on. Because I'd been through health stuff in the past, not that seriously. I'd broken bones and gotten stitches and that sort of a thing.
Yes.
Dislocated joints and what have you. But because it was such a foreign sensation,
yes,
I was curious more than anything. I said, what's going on? I know something's not right, but what's going on?
Yes.
And I didn't recognize how serious it was. And I'm just, I'm a pretty calm and collected kind of guy. And so when the pain got super intense and I went to the hospital to try and figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
Because after 4 days of having what I thought was a flu, right? Vomiting, fever, cold sweats, that sort of thing, no appetite, couldn't pass gas or use the bathroom, just stuck, just blocked up. And then the pain in my core, right down the middle of my abdomen, which is why it didn't set me off to the appendix, because it's usually localized right side, is typically the symptomology.
Yes.
I didn't have any of that. It was just central. It was just a central constriction and then a nagging, aching hole in my stomach kind of feeling. And after 4 days of that and all the symptoms that were going with it, and weaning myself through it on Powerade in my dorm room at university, it became so intensely painful, and I couldn't lie down. I had this crazy acid reflux going on, like acid, like true acid, fire, like lava, just like burning me up from inside. And I went to the hospital and was told by the doctor that I had the flu after he did an X-ray and gave me 2 shots of morphine for the pain after the first painkiller didn't do anything. So 2 shots of morphine did an x-ray, poked me a few times in the stomach. This is like 3 a.m. on a Sunday night. And I'm not freaking out. I'm not screaming, right? I'm not like, you need to fix me. I'm not, I'm calm.
Yes.
Even though internally I'm in hell. And
Yes.
it's the first time I, thought about, I understand suicide. I understand suicide to a degree that I hadn't before.
Yes.
To end that suffering and that pain, right?
Yes.
It's a very enticing option. And so, he completely misdiagnosed me and gave me a prescription for Tylenol 3s and wrote me a note saying I might miss a couple days of school and that I should go sleep it off. And so I'm glad I didn't do that, and I'm glad I called my mother, who was in Brampton. I was in Hamilton at McMaster at the time, and I told her what was going on. And she said, okay, I'll come down and pick you up, and we'll go to a different hospital.
Yes.
So she did, different hospital. Hours later, do a CT scan, and they say, you're a mess. Your abdomen is full of infection. We might have to restructure your colon. Hopefully, it's just the appendix that's been affected, and we're going to do surgery right now, right? So, get ready, and we're going in.
Yeah.
And so they did an exploratory laparotomy, which opened me from about there to there.
Yeah.
And it didn't heal very well because of the infection. So I have a lot of scarring that's continued to inform me and humble me and teach me in my recovery.
Yes.
And that was 8 years ago. And so ever since then, and in the years following, when the complications and the digestive issues, because all the antibiotics, they kept me alive, destroyed my microbiome, and I went back to eating, regular food, pizza, ice cream, binge drinking beer on the weekends, right, like any good college university student.
Yes.
And so that created this really terrible imbalance of yeast and candida and fungus, and so that was really running my system, right? Intense sugar cravings, brain fog, just awful, really awful. So all of that came to a head. My mother was also going through breast cancer treatment that same time when my complications were happening. And I'm in second year of university, and it's just like really heavy and hard engineering technology. And I just decided that this is crazy, because in all of my spare time, I'm listening to YouTube, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to Joe Rogan and the Life Regenerator on YouTube, and all these different people blowing my mind about health and philosophy and lifestyle and taking responsibility and all these really core lessons that I never got growing up. And so that was like one of my initiations into maturity and into health consciousness and into recognizing that when we don't have our health, we don't have anything.
The first wealth is health.
Truly. And so I just decided, okay, I'm going to study this formally. I'm going to make this my life. I'm going to, learn as much as I can, and for myself, and then for others, and share it, and learn it, and live it, and just that's been my life ever since. And I've never looked back, and I've loved it, and it's been a rough ride at times, and it's been a wild ride, adventurous ride.
What have been some of the stepping stones and plateaus that you've reached, and even the walls that now you're...
So there was a few things. Stepping stones, I lived with a ayahuasquero, so a traditional Shipibo shaman in the northeast Amazon of Peru. That was an experience that just informs so much about how I see the world and my connection to nature.
Can you speak a bit further about that and how it's so different, or how it is different from our perspective and the experience of time, space, ourselves, community?
Yeah, so being raised in the suburbs of Toronto, right, for my whole life, only very briefly glimpsing like a third world country. In the 12th grade, I went to Dominican for a week to volunteer. Which was amazing trip. And that really was the first time I ever saw the developing world, quote unquote, and the joy.
And in the developing country, in Dominican, what did you experience that first time or notice?
Yeah, so we were down there doing construction with a church group.
Yes.
And we got to work. We got like a couple hours on one of the days to play and do some programming with the kids in the school of this private little compound that we were staying in.
Were the kids different?
Yeah, so that's just it. They were so joyful and so appreciative of the little dollar store, knickknacks and candies, little things that to us were like nothing, right? It's like back home you have like a big screen TV and your Xbox and your bike and all this like, skateboards and fun stuff. And down here, they're like, they're just joyous for these people who came from another country who brought us these gifts and this little, sweets and treats. And I was like, my God, like life can be so simple. Like, look at how little you need to feel good and content and joyous and have people around you that are, beautiful, loving people.
Yes.
Which I think Western society has just all of forgotten or been forced to forget. So that material consumeristic control structures can exist, which are currently breaking down. Right, so I celebrate the breaking down of those structures and the transformation that is currently, marking these divine times.
Yes.
And yet, it was 2012, September of 2012, when I landed in Peru in the Amazon. After seeing their program for apprenticeships online and having one friend from high school and middle school who had already been down, had a positive experience, and I was just fascinated. Once I learned about shamanism and plant medicine, and herbalism and nutrition, like all these things just fascinated me that I had to experience it.
So this is apprentice shamanism.
Yes, to learn how to work with plant medicines and to prepare ayahuasca and to work with various plants from the Amazon, and just to have that sort of deep dive.
Yes.
Right, and so it ended up being...
How long is that program?
That's 6 months typically, minimum.
My.
More so a year. Traditionally, shamans in training would have done a year of isolation, right? What they call the dieta, the diet.
Yes.
Of pretty much isolation, living in the rainforest with very little, subsisting on like green plantains, little fish, if you can catch them, yucca root, like porridges, just the most bland, salt-free, sugar-free, fat-free, starch diet. That's essentially a slow starvation diet. And you
How
use
was that for you at the beginning? And
I mean, I eased my way into it,
Oh, wow.
right? And so, I was able to make certain sort of adjustments and things, but it's not healthy. It certainly wasn't a healthy diet for me at that time, specifically because I was still healing my gut a little bit. So it's definitely not something I recommend, is to do like an all-starch diet when you have imbalanced gut bacteria. I mean, I just wouldn't recommend that anytime, unless you're doing it for a spiritual reason, right? A developmental reason, which is what they do. And it's that giving up of all these delicious things and all these comforts, right? The giving up of that is your sacrifice to spirit, right? And it enables the spirits and the plants and the forest to recognize, oh, this human is serious. They mean business. They're really here for a deeper purpose. They really are giving up some things that not a lot of humans ever willingly give up in order to forge this relationship, right? And to learn our gifts are being the plants.
yes.
The teachers, And so the way I see the world was prior to that, it's like the environment is out there and nature is out there and it's something that we interact with, right? But we are nature. We are all the same organic material. And when you're in the rainforest, you are surrounded by so much life, vibrant life, the smells, the scents, those are the same things, the tastes, the colors, right? And then the culture. All of those things were such a welcome. It was very easy for me to adapt to that culture. Very easy. Which is interesting because when you hear about reports of captured colonialist sort of soldiers on this continent a few hundred years ago who would be captured by the quote-unquote Indians, the indigenous First Nations, they'd be captured. If they would escape or be sort of liberated, they would often run back. Because they loved the way that life worked in those cultures more so than the British, English, French, whatever cultures, right? And it makes sense because when you're living with the tribe in simple community, in contact with nature, and you have more spirituality present, less dogmatism, less control from one sort of, patriarchal system or the queen or whoever, it's a lot freer and more revitalizing, I think, for our beings as humans. because it's so true to our nature as humans, right? Our hunter-gatherer communal nature,
Yes.
which is, I think, the most important thing, right? And even in health, people talk about all the foods and the practices and make sure you exercise and make sure you do this and, eat turmeric and drink green tea and da-da-da-da. And yet we know from studies in blue zones, which are where there's a disproportionately high number of centenarians, that the number one factor that influences their longevity is community and a sense of purpose and belonging, right? As well as fresh food, local food, organic food, red wine, alcohol, walks, long walks in nature, these types of things.
When you
So
say
I got-
blue zones and like red wine, alcohol, these are part of the medicine of these.
Yes, so in certain places, right? So in like Italy and Greece and those places, red wine is something they have with lunch many times. Maybe lunch, maybe dinner as well. It's all local stuff, no additives,
Yes.
organic. Properly sourced, properly made. But it's that ritual and that coming together and relaxing over a delicious glass of wine, right? And then eating a meal slowly and talking about life and talking about your days, right? Really just being present and being human
Yes.
is what I got a taste of in Peru, in the rainforest, right? There's people coming from all over the world to sit and to learn and to heal and to grow and to expand. And it was all of those things. It was healing, it was informative, it was educational, it was magical, it was scary at times, it was exciting at times. And it made coming back to this culture very challenging. Very, very challenging. Probably one of the hardest things I've done is the reintegration into this culture. And one of the plateaus you would have asked about there at the beginning, right? One of these things that I hit was coming back and not knowing my place or my direction, but feeling pressure because of the culture. You got to know what you're doing. You got to work. Don't just sit around and daydream. You got to be productive. You got to move forward. All these things. So I put all this pressure on myself. I took it on. That okay, I got to do something next. And it was. I do agree that when you come back, it's good to have at least something, right? At least a part-time job, at least some sort of responsibility, some structure. Because otherwise you can just fall into isolation and disorganization and chaos and really lose yourself, which apparently I had to do at that time. It had to happen. But not knowing where to go and being so anxious and depressed around various different things, and ending back up at McMaster, where I had done a year of sciences thinking about naturopathic or chiropractic medicine, ending up back there as a default, but knowing in my core, literally being like sick to my stomach because I wouldn't recognize and honor that feeling, that it wasn't right for me to go back into that world. That they weren't going to teach me what I was here to learn. And they weren't going to set me up to be doing the work I do now. And so eventually, with a lot of coaxing and supportive and not so supportive conversations with friends and family members and guidance counselors, I pulled myself out and I found the Institute of Holistic Nutrition.
Yes.
And I went in and did a student for the day there and sat in on a class and was just sold. I was like, okay, this is exactly what I want to learn, right? They've formalized all the things I've been researching for the last 4 years on my own. And they formalized it, and they've got experience and a community, and I found that, and it's just like that brought me to the wellness space in Toronto, and has connected me to so many beautiful people, so many friends of ours. And it brings me to now, where it's like, okay, people are ready for these shifts. People are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yes.
Right? And they're ready, and they know that the system is not set up to serve them. It's set up to serve a specific group of corporations and government entities. And it's bullshit, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
And it's falling, it's crumbling, and so we get to create the new way, right? We get to come together and collaborate and figure out what works best for us as individuals and communities, and how do we support each other and become more resilient, right? And become more connected,
Yes.
instead of less connected, right? More present instead of absent-minded and isolated and anxious. So.
So what are the fundamentals, the basics, the starting points for, for any individual that's wanting to really get holistically healthy?
It starts in the mind. It always starts in the mind. It starts with a decision, right? You have to decide, this is who I am, and this is who I'm becoming, Because if you let yourself, your current self-image and your habits and the momentum of your life dictate what you do for the rest of your life,
Yes.
you're going to have a lot of regrets, and you're going to have a lot of wishing that you would have done different or known better or acted different or had the courage to follow your heart or follow your gut. And so when the health comes a knocking, right, when health consciousness, usually through a crisis of some sort, a wake-up call, a scare, right, is what happens for most of us, unfortunately. And then you just have to decide, you'll recognize, okay, the faith I had in the medical system is misplaced. The faith I had in my doctors is misplaced. No one cares more about my health than me, right?
Yes.
No one can be responsible for me. This is my body, right?
Yes.
And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. A person who makes that shift and takes personal responsibility is usually going to be, a successful client or patient or someone who can create lasting change, right? But if there's still victimhood, if there's still complaining and poor me and why did this happen and why can't someone else fix this for me or why can't I just buy my way out of this problem, if that's how you're thinking, then you're disempowered and you're not going to make the shifts that are necessary to sustain lasting change and to feel good and to love yourself throughout the process, right? Because if someone truly loves himself, with this sort of step 2, right, it's coming to that awareness that if I really loved myself, would I have created this situation? Would I have eaten all that junk food? Would I have spent those hours in front of the TV mindlessly watching crap that's polluting my brain and dragging me down, right? Would I have done those things if I truly loved myself? The
So
answer's gotta be no.
in that ignorance, then how does one begin to love themselves, forgive themselves for that, and also effectively learn?
It's not always easy. It's not always easy. I mean, there's a lot of different, it's going to be different for everybody. Right?
Yes.
And I always talk about finding and refining your unique recipe for optimal health,
Yes.
right? Because it's different for you, it's different for me.
Yes.
And so too is the path that you will take to even start on the path of health, right? For me, it was a ruptured appendix and chronic digestive issues, right? Seeing my mom go through cancer, seeing family members die from chemotherapy and radiation,
Yes.
right? Strokes, heart attack, all these things started to wake me. It's like, okay, clearly we're not doing something right, or we're doing a lot of things wrong, right? And so where it starts is just recognizing that, also being easy on yourself, recognizing that we're all doing the best we can with what we know. We come from a history of traumatized humans, right, that have had to relocate across the planet, that have fled wars, famines, all kinds of destruction and death and terror and really hard stuff, right? That's literally in our DNA and in our subconscious that's passed down through epigenetic inheritance. So give yourself a break, right? Give yourself a pat on the back for just being here and the miracle that you are to be here.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's simple, right? It's like, okay, let's go to bed at a decent time and make sure I'm waking up feeling refreshed, right? So sleep. Breathing. Am I breathing deeply into my guts, into my diaphragm? Right? That's the simplest way to shift your state, is through your breath.
And in your breath, it's breathing deeply into your diaphragm, but also having an awareness of the breath going right to from the tips of our toes to our fingertips
Fingers,
to
top of the
right,
head.
Yes.
Yeah, right? Really
You know,
directing it,
everywhere and having.
spreading that life force throughout your system. And then, simple things.
What are some of the best breath exercises for discovery that you're aware of?
The first thing I probably ever did, which
Yes.
also tied in with the sleep and the stress, was progressive muscle relaxation. So that is when you're usually lying down or seated, and you're starting at your feet and you're breathing in. Flex the feet, engage the feet, engage the feet. Hold that for a few seconds,
And then let it go.
and do that 3 times on, start with the feet, then the lower legs, then the upper legs, and then the hips, then the core, then the chest, the whole body, right? And then you do the whole body. Flex, 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 flex. Hold your breath, relax. 3 times. After you've done that, you just usually pass right out, right? I was doing it to sleep.
How long then doing that the whole body? Initially, our awareness will be, like all the toes, but eventually, I guess one could have moved to each specific toe. I'm just imagining
There's no limit to the
the depth of dexterity and that and awareness that we can have. But just starting off even with, just the toes, then, a bit more the arch of the foot, the ankles,
Yep.
and just with that, playing with and expanding our awareness from a pinpoint to a larger and discovering and really enjoying the discovery process.
Yes.
And even for myself up here, whole legs, knees, being aware of, and certainly I'm aware my knees crack at times. What's this? And then as I practice sometimes doing squats, and they're musical, and I'm not particularly impressed, but I haven't been kind to myself. I haven't really loved myself in that. I've gotten angry at what's going on here. And I was never taught, and I was on a, like, this idea. I heard that as soon as we're born, we're actually born and we're given a death sentence by being born. And as I've considered, it's actually a beautiful thing, because there's a time for us to be born and there's a time for us to go and to drop the body. But then we have the gift of this body at birth. So then how do we, I'm beginning to say, okay, how do I work with it now? And I've had my ignorance of not just taking it for granted, treating it like a machine. And 6 years ago, I started going blind, even though eyes have been a challenge all of my life, or sight has been a challenge. And now I'm going, okay, and I've denied it or not paid attention and just worked on my insight. Okay, that's going. But I'm also now beginning to discover, as I work or endeavor to use a bit of the sight that I have, then I use it and it's like, oh my God, it hurts, and it diminishes. So it's like, okay, I'm resisting taking the lessons. So even in speaking with you, sometimes it's better for me to just close my eyes a little and say, okay, see you this way. And yet it's so it's not the standard. In society. And now I'm having to say, okay, be kind to myself, and sometimes I'm just going to ask, if I'm closing my eyes with you, it's okay. I'm actually seeing you in a brighter way. And learning to appreciate, as you said, we're all individual and unique in discovering our healthy self. So, just carrying on then,
So, I mean, simple things.
We're talking about breath.
Self-care, self-love, breath, right? So the progressive muscle relaxation is a great one. Box breathing is a great one.
Excuse me?
Box breathing. So you're breathing in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold empty for 4.
Yes.
Just keep doing that box. Keep doing that box. It's an active meditation. It's a nervous system regulation technique that they teach first responders and police officers.
Yes.
Great if you're feeling stressed, So I found that when I was in university and would do that during exams and before exams.
So the first breath is in, or the first one is hold.
Yeah, so you're breathing in for 4. Hold. 3, 4, out. 2, 3, 4, hold. 2, 3, 4.
And so that's the breath. Are we tensing or not, or relaxing?
No, it's just the breath.
Just the breath.
It's just the breath. You can do it while you walk. You can do it while you read, while you drive. You can do it anytime. It'll definitely center you. It'll help to rid you of anxiety if something is going, stressful is happening. And to bring you back to the body, right?
So if one wants to learn more about breathing, you've mentioned box breathing first. Is there a place to go or look at to learn more about that?
I mean, I would just YouTube.
All right.
YouTube, any sort of, whatever the outcome you're looking for, breathing exercise.
Okay.
Right? So energizing, breath exercise. Calming, breath exercise. So much stuff out there. Study yoga, pranayama.
Yes.
Which was another entry point for myself into all this. And actually, the guy who first taught me box breathing, the yoga teacher at our university, talked about how with practice, you could extend it to 30, 30, 30, 30, or even 60 seconds 4 times, right? And that blew my mind. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm struggling at like 6 seconds to like in and hold and out and hold. He's telling me I can do 10 times that that's possible? Like, whoa, right?
What are you up to now?
If I really relax and, have some cannabis in my system and have given myself a belly massage that day,
Yes.
I could probably hit 30,
Mm-hmm.
30 seconds or so with some working into it.
Yes.
I've definitely done upwards of 20.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in that deep of a state, it is just so peaceful and so restoring, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about shifting the nervous system out of sympathetic dominance, out of fight or flight or freeze,
Yes.
and into rest, digest, rejuvenate, recover, right? The parasympathetic activation.
Mm-hmm.
Breath is, and I think always will be, the fastest ticket to get there, which is so essential, right? And even more so with things like Wi-Fi and 5G being ubiquitous in cities in the next couple of years, because that's such a stress to our physiology and to our nervous systems, that by default, people are already, super anxious, right? They don't even have a reference anymore. This always happens to me, and it happened to me today when I had a beautiful, 2-hour massage, and letting go of all that tension, having some cannabis in my system and some CBD. It brings me back to the realization that when you take care of chronic tension in the body, everything else pretty much takes care of itself. And because the body is the mind, right? There's no separation. The mind follows, right? So when your body is at ease, the mind is at ease, and there's spaciousness, and there's creativity that can flow from that, right? There's authentic expression that can flow from that. And it's really that sense of embodiment that, for me, is subjective wellness and well-being, right? Is how much time are you in your body? Are you feeling your body? Are you feeling strong and aligned in your body, right? I went and saw my chiropractor right after that massage. So it's
Yes.
like I'm stacking up the therapies. And this is so much of what I teach is like, just do the things that you know, drink water, right? Make sure
Yes.
you're hydrated.
Yes.
Eat whole foods. And I don't
Will you
mean,
speak
I don't
more
mean
of-
that
Yes.
in terms of just go to Whole Foods, the store, and buy their stuff. They have great stuff. But whole, fresh, unprocessed fruits, vegetables, whole grains, good proteins, good fats. Like, just simplify things. Learn to cook, right? For me, that was one of the hugest things for my own self-care and my own self-love.
Yes.
Can I cook for myself? Do I care about myself enough, and have I learned enough, right? Am I capable to go to a store, to buy all the raw ingredients, to go home, wash them, prep them, chop them, cook them, spice them, season them, enjoy them, clean up, Can I do that? I couldn't do that until I was probably, I don't know. I mean, I would make myself some food as a kid, but it was usually always like a mini pizza, or I would do a tuna melt, a bagel with cheese and tuna.
Yes.
A lot of that stuff was clogging me up and making me gassy.
So what would it be now? A visit to the store, and let's say for a beginner now, what would I do if I wanted to go shop, practice eating simply, cooking some things,
Yeah.
but also giving myself, what's the beginner steps?
Yeah, I mean, particularly now, so we're in Toronto,
Yes.
right? It is end of October,
Yes.
2018, harvest season, right? So if it was me, I would say go grab yourself like a nice butternut squash, or some sweet potatoes or something like that, right? Some
And
nice
how do we
root
cook them,
vegetables.
or do we eat them raw?
No, don't eat them raw. I mean, you could try.
Not too easy.
I've heard of people juicing sweet potatoes.
Yes.
So apparently it's a thing. But no, you're going to want to, the easiest thing, for me, the easiest thing, and I try to keep things very simple.
Yes.
For my clients, for myself, because I want it to be easy, efficient, and delicious.
Yes.
And nourishing, of course. So I would take that squash, pop the top off, chop the top off, chop the bottom off, just that little rough part.
Yes.
Chop it in half lengthwise. Score it with your knife. Sprinkle some salt, pepper, maybe a drizzle of olive oil or butter. Rub some butter into
When you
there.
say score it with your knife, just...
Scoring, so you're just cutting into the flesh maybe a half an inch or an
Got
inch,
it.
just to make some
So
lines.
it's a little bit like plowing.
Yeah.
Got
yeah, Yeah.
Yes.
Just making some cuts so
Yes.
that the oil and the seasoning can get in better.
That's an olive oil?
You can do an extra virgin olive oil,
Or
if you're gonna.
More ideally,
Ideally, probably like an avocado or grape seed,
oil.
or you could use butter or coconut oil if,
Yes.
if the saturated fat works for you.
Yes.
Ghee even is a favorite of mine. I made some ghee the other day. Another thing that is super simple to do, and yet most people don't do it. And so yeah, you want to put some butter or some oil of some sort.
And what
salt,
type of spices?
Pepper.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of cinnamon and curry. I'm a big curry fan. So I would do some curry powder, maybe some cumin, some paprika, a little dash of cinnamon.
What are some of the benefits of the curry, the cumin, the paprika?
Yeah, I mean, herbs and spices are medicine.
So that's
truly.
taste, but yeah.
It is taste, but it is medicine,
part.
right?
Yes.
So herbs and spices are typically the highest antioxidant and highest polyphenol, which means plant chemical, which typically has some sort of health benefit, right? So whether it's going to reduce inflammation in your body, right? So like something like turmeric or curcumin and ginger, right? These are anti-inflammatories, great for pain, great for tension, great
Yes.
for recovery.
Now, they have these in the little bottles that one can buy in the store, the powders. Is that what you're speaking of? Or what is
Yeah,
actually more
essentially.
effective?
I mean, I tend to, because I use them quite a bit, I'll tend to buy organic bulk packages.
Yes.
It's a lot cheaper.
Oh,
And then I'll just refill my little jars,
Oh,
right? So
okay.
I remember in university, it was quite the to-do. The first time I went to Bulk Barn and got a full set of spices for my kitchen, right? So you go there.
how
get
much
all
did you
your
spend for
bags.
that first full setup?
I want to say probably $30, $40 maybe.
Just for spices. Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. And I was very blessed. I am very blessed to have supportive parents, right, who have been with me through this whole thing, who have helped me to fund my wellness, essentially, right, to get access to good food, and to be able to, have that as a staple.
Yes.
But you can do it for less. And I would say
Sure.
simple things. I mean, if someone doesn't have cinnamon, definitely get yourself some cinnamon. Ceylon cinnamon, ideally, because there's different kinds of cinnamon and
Ceylon
grades,
cinnamon, yes.
which is great for stabilizing blood sugar.
Yes.
Is most people how they know about it.
And the Ceylon cinnamon, that can be in our tea or water or
Tea.
or hot water
You can
or
put it in a
cold.
smoothie. I like to make a cinnamon gingery kind of tea. I'll put it into coffee. I'll put it into all my smoothies pretty much.
What's the story on coffee and caffeine?
I mean, you're going to hear counteracting or counterpoints on both sides.
Yes.
If you are already an anxious person who's burnt out and who is relying on caffeine as a way to get through your day and who is drinking shitty quality, moldy, pre-processed, pre-ground old coffee, blends of coffee, non-organic coffee,
Or instant coffee, even less.
or you can get organic instant coffee.
Oh,
You
okay.
can get clean instant coffee. It does exist. But yeah, if you're drinking, that kind of thing, and it's the only way you're getting through your day, then yeah, it's probably depleting your system and might be doing more harm than good.
Yes.
If you're having 1, maybe 2 cups a day, right? I typically have 1 cup a day if I'm having coffee. And I'll go through phases where I'll go off, go into decaf, go into different things, teas of
Yeah.
some sort. Because I do find it puts me into a less feeling-centric space, right? It's great for getting work done and being on top of things and being energized and, being focused.
Yes.
But it's not, for me, always the best if I want to just, relax and read a book or do some journaling or whatever it is. That said, if you get good quality coffee, that is a health tonic in my eyes,
Yes.
right? Because it's so loaded, again, with polyphenols and with antioxidants
Yes.
and different coffee acids, like fatty acids, that have many benefits as well for the brain, for metabolism, for liver health, they've studied coffee quite a bit at this point. It's just about the quality, right? The quality and the dose is what makes anything either a medicine or a poison, right? Quality and dose.
So going to like an espresso, equally good or?
It's fine. Yeah, it's
Just
fine. I mean, it's less
quality.
water. Yeah, as long as you're not putting a bunch of sugar and milk into it, right? Those things would detract from the benefits. So,
Okay.
typically, I'll make elixirs pretty much most days. coffee elixirs, I'll call them, and I'll combine things like holy basil for a more relaxing, balancing effect. I'll use chaga tea, mushroom tea, as a base. Then I'm putting in cinnamon. I'm putting in usually some ghee or some full-fat coconut milk, right? Some collagen or some protein powder, and I blend that all together to make it more of a meal replacement, right? Instead of just a coffee. And so that, for me, slows down the release of the caffeine.
Yes.
Helps to synergize the effects of the caffeine. I'll put L-theanine in there as well, which promotes alpha brain waves and calm focus.
And do you take this in a boiling water, or this is just a more of a room temperature?
Yeah, so I would make a French press of the coffee, right? So boil the water, or tea in this case.
Yes.
Pour that on top, right? Not exactly boiling. You want it like 90 is ideal.
Yes.
Pour that on top, let it infuse for a few minutes, right? And then I'm pouring that off into a blender to add everything else,
Yes.
right? All the fats and the proteins and the different herbs and things. And that, to me, that's like a brain healing, body boosting, anti-inflammatory, delicious, frothy latte of a breakfast.
My.
Yeah, right? So I'm not going to feel bad about making those for myself and recommending my clients make those. It, again, self-love. If
Yes.
you really love yourself, you would invest the time and the know-how to make these things instead of going to a Starbucks and spending more money, right, per serving. You're probably spending more money at a Starbucks to get some sugar-filled, processed dairy, non-organic shit that's probably not going to make you feel that great.
Yeah, it'll give you an instant high, but not
Yeah.
really a healthy one.
Yeah, exactly. And the sugar's going to mess you up, and it's just not going to be good, not going to be ideal.
Yeah.
And so just take the time, right? Take the time, develop your own ritual, right? Your morning sort of elixir ritual. It's
Yes.
fantastic, right? So for me, it's about creating those times throughout the day, little self-love ceremonies, you might call them, right? Tuning in, what do I want? What does my body need? Okay, let's take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, let's whip it together, let's enjoy the process, and let's nourish ourselves with the best quality stuff we have,
Yes.
right? But just to wrap up on that squash, right? Don't forget about the squash.
Yes.
So you would do all that, and then just stick it in the oven, 350,
Yes.
let it go until it gets golden brown, right? Probably be 45 minutes or so in a preheated oven. And at that point, when it's soft, when you poke it with a fork, right, and your fork goes through, it's done. Pop it out, let it cool a little bit, scoop the flesh out of the skin.
Yes.
And so, again, this is where I use the blender. Like, I use high-powered blenders for a lot of things. They're so simple. So I would throw that into, like, the blender if I want to make a puree of some sort. And again, maybe I'm throwing in some coconut oil, maybe avocado, maybe some red onion, some garlic, right, some apple cider vinegar or lemon, and I'm blending that, and you make this delicious whipped, like squash, sweet potato-y kind of thing that works as a side, it works as a condiment, it works as a dip, it works as a topping for, a protein of some sort, whether you want to have some fish, some chicken, some beans and rice, whatever it is,
Yes.
whatever works for you. And you throw a little bit of fresh greens beside that. Again, oil, vinegar, lemon, salt, good
Yes.
sea salt on the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's delicious. Easy to make, affordable,
Yes.
and nourishing, really nourishing. So, yeah,
Super
it can be
cool.
that easy. It can be that easy. It's just about
Nice.
overcoming that first experience and having a good experience. Ideally, doing it with someone else, right? With a friend or a lover or a loved one, because that makes the process. that
Dining
much
for
more
two is a lot
enjoyable.
more fun.
Two or more.
Yes.
Two or more.
Yes.
Totally. And it's funny, actually. Last week was the Biohacker Summit, the first ever Toronto Biohacking Summit.
Okay.
And I was blessed enough to speak there. And
What does that
contribute.
mean, biohacking?
Biohacking you can think about in terms of optimizing your health
Okay.
through any means possible, right? That means nutrition, that means light and lasers and stem cells and magnets and, visualization and yoga and exercise and strength training and, nature connection, all those things, relationships, all those things. Just really looking at all the different environmental factors that create health
Yes.
and then becoming empowered to manipulate them.
Yes.
So it's a really cool cross-section of like nutrition people, doctors, engineers, creative people, artists. It's a very awesome community around the world that ascribes to these values. And so the guys from Finland who organize it were talking about how there's only one country whose nutritional guidelines tell you to cook with your friends and family from scratch until the end. Right? It's built into the nutritional guidelines for the country.
Which country is that?
Brazil. It's Brazil. Because they know that community is important, right? Mental health, belonging, fun, shared experiences, right? It should be fun, right?
Yes.
Life should be enjoyed and celebrated.
Yes.
And food, for me, is one of the most primal, delicious, amazing ways we get to do that.
Yes.
So yeah, it's very interesting to see what our culture has come from, where it's going now, right? Health is sexy now. People want to be healthy, right? You can go to your corner smoothie spot and get a greens juice and a smoothie bowl and all these things that, in 2011, when I'm showing up to university class with a jar of green juice, I look like a freak. It's like, what's this person doing, right? And now it's the cool thing. So it's just funny how trends come and things go. But I love the health trend. I love the wellness trend. I think, wellness is what we need to prioritize. Human wellness, true human wellness. And the knowing and the revitalizing of ourselves. Everything else comes after that, in my eyes, right?
Yeah.
All of the political stuff, all of the organizational stuff, solving these bigger issues. We are, in order to serve, you have to be fit for service.
Yes.
And a lot of people aren't. And that's just the reality. And so we have to be constantly learning and be diligent and be training and have our rituals and our routines and our habits that enable us to be fit for service, and be clear-headed, right? And be in touch with reality. And not trapped in delusions of the mind and delusions of the culture, right?
And even the delusions of the time of our life. For instance, with the growing senior population
Yeah.
and senior population,
Yeah.
there is the opportunity for a real wake-up to begin to discover wherever we are, how to heal the body and heal its present state, regardless of how good or how difficult or diminished it currently is.
Yeah.
By changing the nutrition and the awareness every day, there really can be miraculous or seemingly miraculous, shifts. Probably in a month, maybe sooner,
Yeah.
maybe longer.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, when you go looking for these stories, they are abundant, right? They are abundant. And one of the other simple things is just extending the period of time that you're not eating, right? Particularly if someone has weight issues or blood sugar issues, right? Intermittent fasting, so going minimum 12 hours between dinner and breakfast, up to 16, up to 18, up to 20, 24. People do whole day fast. I know a lot of people, more and more, who are thriving on one meal a day, right? More so men than women. And it depends on your constitution and many other things. But it's an ancient free practice, is, different kinds of fasting and just lessening the load on your system, right? You see a lot of elderly people. This is what brought this up, is because I see elderly people who are clearly overweight and obese. Clearly.
And they're still eating 3 meals a day and having all this stuff.
It makes no sense.
Right.
Right? That's a sick human. That's a sick culture that doesn't recognize that as not right.
Yes.
And so pulling back and, cleaning up the nutrition, they can still eat 3 times a day, right? But it's just different quality stuff.
Yes.
And they might actually feel better if they eat less, right?
Yes. It's just habit that gets them to.
Exactly, and it's emotional comfort for most people, right? Food is a very emotional thing. I know for myself, I've had very emotional eating patterns and habits and things that I'm still working with, right? And that, I don't think it really goes away. It just changes and refines in a sense. And so it's that strengthening of those self-care muscles, right, is what makes it essentially it will become a joy at some point. If you allow it can become a joy to do all these things. Now, in the modern world, when you're trying to pay the bills and work a job and get through traffic and go to the gym and get your 8 hours of sleep and do all these things and catch up with your friends socially and be going on this trip and be doing this business. So many things, right? So many external things, this hunger for more and more and more. When that's going on, of course, you're going to look at cooking a meal and be like, fuck that. That's a waste of time. I'll buy my food,
Yes.
right? But really, it's probably the best thing for you to slow down and to eat that meal, right? If someone says, I don't have time to meditate, you know that person needs to make time to meditate, right?
Yes.
This is my belief, at least.
Yes.
Not to push anything on anyone,
Yeah.
but
So if someone is a non-meditator and they want to begin, how do they begin and
Again,
develop that relationship?
YouTube's a fantastic resource.
Mm-hmm.
I even put out a guided meditation on a Facebook Live with my friend Wayne that I also put out as my last podcast.
Yes.
The second half of that podcast is a guided meditation, so find a guided meditation. Find someone you like listening to.
And that usually is half an hour or something like that.
It could be 5 minutes.
Even that, yes.
It could be 10 minutes. I started with the 10-minute guided meditation when I was in university. I was like 19 years old. That was my intro point. Then I found a 30-minute one by Kelly Howell called Healing Meditation that I listened to every day before bed, which was amazing, life-changing. But yeah, that could be it, right? Or it's just walking and being mindful of your walking and your breathing, right? You don't have to sit and meditate to meditate, right? Yoga classes, yoga studios will have meditation classes.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything where you're just connected, conscious, and present to just your being.
And it's always useful in my experience to have a guide to bring you back, bring you back, right? Because otherwise the mind will just go all over the place.
Yes.
And you might not feel very rested or present.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's an entry point for people.
Yes.
That and again, it's awesome. It's trendy, right? There's meditation studios, there's meditation classes every day of the week.
Yes.
Right? There's guided meditations on Facebook Live. It's everywhere.
Yes.
So many access points.
So people are getting connected. We spoke a bit about the body, getting connected, breath, hydration,
Yep.
Food and diet.
Yep.
What are the other things? And I'm getting some flashing. And it seems you have some
Jewelry.
Yes, tell me about that.
Yeah, so I've got 3 things here, all of which are very special to me, and
Yes.
all of which have their own unique story. The first one, this is actually a cross-section of ayahuasca vine.
May I reach out and just
I
feel?
can-
It's fine.
okay,
Just,
yeah.
this is ayahuasca vine.
It's ayahuasca vine.
My gosh.
These are wauro seeds,
Yes.
these black and red seeds,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's some beads mixed in between.
So this is ayahuasca vine. My
That's
gosh.
ayahuasca vine.
And this is the vine then that is brewed and ingested and will give one a 12-hour or 8-hour experience of really discovering oneness with the nature of the world, their own selves, and their mind beyond anything they've ever known.
Very likely, yes. Not guaranteed, but very likely. A lot of the times, depending where you are and who you're drinking with, it can be 8 hours of physical purging, right? And
yes.
just releasing and cleansing the body of all kinds of toxic waste and emotional waste and blockages. So, never go into a ayahuasca ceremony, expecting anything.
Yes.
Or expecting some sort of beautiful unification experience.
Yes.
It might happen, it might not. But it has happened for many thousands of people,
Yes.
for many generations. We don't know how many generations, that these kinds of rituals and ceremonies have been profoundly healing
Yes.
and profoundly inspiring and informing, right, for keeping these cultures healthy through the ages, and connected to spirit.
Yes. So you've had some experience with that?
Yeah, so in Peru,
Yes.
that's what I was studying, right? I was studying and
Yes.
working with.
Yes.
And when I left, they gave me this beautiful piece. And it's been reconstructed actually twice. So it was first just the vine on a piece of fishing line, right, with the seeds.
Yes.
And these seeds they fall from the canopy. You find them in the jungle if you're lucky.
Yes.
And they symbolize good luck and protection. And so it was that, and then it broke,
And the day that it broke, I met a new friend
Yes.
who was traveling through Canada briefly, and she makes jewelry. She's like, "Oh, I'll fix it." So she put it together with these beads and the adjustable little string and some wooden pieces in the back, and made it better than ever. And then one time I was doing push-ups in a park bench, and I snapped it because it got stuck. The piece got stuck, and it snapped.
Yep.
So I did super glue it back together. So that's that. Next
Yes.
up, and this is chronological. So this is like 2013, early 2013.
Yes.
This is a Pure Harmony pendant. My friend Robert Marking.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually just in town for that biohacking summit.
Mm-hmm.
He's a fantastic energy healer and just
Yes. Yeah.
very connected guy. He's a very connected guy. And it's stainless steel, and the patterning is something that holds energy and harmonizes energy. And so you hold this 2 inches out, 2 inches up and 8 inches out from your solar plexus or your belly button. And it attunes to your energetic field. And there's all kinds of great things. And if you could look up Robert Marking and some of the interviews he's done to learn more about it and how
Yes.
he came up with them. And he works with professional athletes and does all kinds of stuff with these. And so that's for just harmonizing my energy field, helping to protect me from electronics and the stress from cell phones and things like that. So that's that. And then this third one is recent.
Does that make you stronger or physically more aligned?
Yeah, it definitely brings your system into more of an alignment and coherence.
And balance?
Yeah,
Yes.
and he's got one called the Performance Pendant as well, which is more for that. It's more athletic focused.
Yes.
And then this is a mala, and
Yes.
it's made in the Tibetan style, which is there's 108 beads in the whole thing, right? And so I think this is like 24.
Yes.
24, or something
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
And I made this at the Cannabliss retreat that I was at attending and helping facilitate and doing some speaking and healing work at.
Yes.
And the intention that I held as I was making it, which is infused into it now and will get stronger the more I meditate on it and put my energy into it, is that of being supported and knowing that I'm supported and knowing that I can't not be supported.
Yes.
If I am living true to myself and I'm striving to live in harmony and balance with the earth, I can't not be supported. It's impossible, right? Nature
Yes.
won't allow it because nature wants to propagate, supportive, collaborative, connected
Yes.
life and love and beings. That's what those three things are, and I love them. And they look good. And,
And energetically,
function.
aside from the shine, there's a sense of energetics, that seem to be going both within and coming through, and it seems that that's an enhancer,
Most definitely.
an elevator.
Most definitely, right? And that's another thing you're talking about. What are the other aspects we can look at?
Yes.
Right? So electromagnetic, environment and protection and enhancement, right? So using magnets, using crystals, using various things to protect and harmonize your own field. Because we know at the source we are electromagnetic light-based beings. And then the biochemistry comes on top of that.
Yes.
Right? So when you can harmonize your energetics, again, things tend to take care of themselves.
You have some specialization in that, don't you? And some units or modalities or machines that actually...
Yeah. So I use something called an amp coil,
Yes.
which is a fantastic device. Essentially, it's a sound device, a sound vibration device.
Yes.
That can exert certain effects on human forms and physiology. And I will use that to get a picture of certain stressors that are going on in someone's life and in their organs and in their system. And then we can use that to introduce beneficial frequencies back into their being, right? And this is based on a lot of work by people like Nikola Tesla and people like Royal Raymond Rife.
Yes.
And Hulda Clark. These are some of the pioneers in the frequency-based medicine world, which is exploding nowadays.
Yes.
And yeah, I love using these things because they're more elegant, right? It's like the Star Trek age is here.
Yes.
It's
yes.
been here.
Mm-hmm.
But mainstream medicine refuses to look at it because it means the ending of their monopoly and the ending of untold billions of dollars on unnecessary equipment and treatment and procedures. So yeah, it's up to us to source these things, to do our research, to find these things, right? And if people are open and interested
Yes.
in finding more elegant means for healing and more integrative, safe, non-invasive means for healing, then by all means, reach out, look this stuff up, find a practitioner near you,
Yes.
right? Because this is the future. Light and sound and vibration and frequency is the future. It already was the past.
Yes.
We know that ancient cultures understood these things,
Yes.
used them for healing, used them for astral travel and various things.
Yes.
And so it's a remembering, right? It's just a remembering of who we are, why we're here, what's possible, where we've been. And then from there, it's like, okay, where can we imagine? What beautiful places can we imagine where we want to go,
Yes.
right? And then we do it. We get together and we do it.
And in the imagining, right now in Canada, and we're going to close off here, but we now have the legalization of cannabis.
Yes.
What is your take on its meaning and the best ways for people that are not experienced? What is the best way now for them to begin to learn and experience and discover the healthy ways with it?
Yeah, so for me, it really signifies a lot of things in the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
It signifies a rebalancing of masculine, feminine energies.
Yes.
And a softening, and the allowance of that to be, culturally okay.
So
For
for
people to
girls,
unwind.
balancing, and for guys, balancing, like for everyone.
Yeah, for everyone, but I just mean in the sense that the cannabis spirit, similar to the ayahuasca spirit,
Yes.
is a feminine spirit, typically.
Yes.
Right? It's a creative, loving, nurturing, artistic, oftentimes inspiring, romantic sort of spirit.
Yes.
And so they can also be very healing and very, tough love.
Therapeutic, yes.
Yeah.
How tough love, for instance?
I mean, you ask anybody who's eaten a cannabis cookie, when they should have had half or a quarter, and, the dissolving of the ego because you are overdosing on THC
Yes.
is a real thing.
Oh, yes.
And people think they're dying.
Yep.
It's a common report. I think I'm going to die. You're not going to die.
A few
You're
years
not
ago,
gonna die.
holiday time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wearing a jacket, and I forget things in my jacket sometimes.
Mhm.
And back on, I think it was January the 6th, I was going to a concert, and I was running late, so I called a cab,
Mhm.
and I was going, God, I didn't really eat today.
Mm.
And I reached out and I was thinking, maybe there's something here.
Mm.
And I thought it was I think it was a cookie or a muffin. And I thought, oh, great. And I
Proceeded to eat the whole thing?
and I thought, wonderful. And I was just so happy to have some food.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I put like just
Little snack things,
an ordinary
yeah.
snack,
Yeah.
in. And, occasionally I even go to Starbucks and I get like their brownies or something like this, or,
Yeah.
and different places. And I went and I was so happy. And I go to the concert. And my friend and I are talking about different things. My friend's a lawyer,
Yeah.
and I'm actually saying, gee, I need to, update my will, make some changes, and this and that. And this is on my mind just before the concert. The concert starts, and it's Mozart's Requiem, the death mass, and the music is glorious. And all of a sudden, I'm going, I don't feel so well. I'm not sure what's going on. By the time intermission, and I recall, I think I'm having a stroke or a heart attack. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't want to disturb the music in case I croaked. So I sort of got myself wedged into the chair.
I'm riding this one out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm wedging. So if I croak at intermission, let them discover me. But until then, I'm just gonna. So I wedged my scarf in and just and I'm hanging on. No idea. Finally, intermission came. The ambulance my friend says, "What's wrong? You're not clapping." Not very well. I had no idea what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so, needless to say, visited the hospital, And, came out a handful of hours later, and then it dawned on me, did I eat anything strange? And I just had a cookie or muffin I found in my pocket. And then I remembered, holiday time. I think someone said this was a special cookie. And then I realized, oh God, it was special.
Yeah, yeah. And so I want to help prevent those things from happening.
Right.
They're so common.
Yes.
It happens to the best of us.
Yes.
And yet it's unnecessary.
It was a little bit more than divine times.
Yes.
Just
It's
a little
divine
bit-
and chaotic and,
and
hell,
chaotic.
a little bit of hell thrown in there.
Yeah,
A little bit of existential angst.
indeed. And then it's sort of, okay, respect, this was, like, amazing, and, like, the body felt horrible, the mind was laughing at this, except for the concern that, is the body going, or what's going
Yeah.
on here? And this is all part of the divine times we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Hardy, I thank you so very much, brianhardy.ca,
That's it.
and Redefining Reality, your podcast.
That's it.
Look forward to again.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
brother.
sir.
Yes, pleasure.
Let your light shine, and to our audience, thank you for tuning in to Divine Times. This is Hilton Milan. We'll see you in the light.
Be well.
And you, sir.
Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.